Hello and welcome to This Contains Garlic. You're here with your hosts. Who are we here with?
Me, myself, and I.
You know what? This is why you don't start the podcast. I'm trying to put you on your. I'm putting you on your toes here. What's your name, Mark?
My name is Mark
Okay.
Charles.
Oh no, we didn't need the middle name.
What's your middle names?
That's Georgia Alice Daisy. I've got two middle names. Pretentious, I know. At least I don't have a double-barreled surname. Anyway, I am now going to continually start the podcast because it seems that as the second podcast we've just done, and I've kept you on your toes, you're unable to start this podcast.
Do you want me to do it this time?
Okay, ready? Okay, so imagine I'm playing Go.
Hello and welcome to This Contains Garlic. You're here with your host Mark Garlic and...
No, Georgia Guy and... Not and, do you know what I mean?
Well, we don't have to do it exactly the same.
Anyway, better. Anyway, we're back, everyone. And today, what are we talking about, Mark?
Today we're talking about the number one thing that you could potentially be doing that is holding you back from achieving your own personal goals.
Did you say not doing or doing?
You are doing.
No, we wouldn't be doing.
Consciously or subconsciously.
That makes no sense. What we're talking about today...
That does. How does it not make sense?
Because if you are doing what we're about to talk about,
we're going to discuss.
Then you wouldn't be worried.
The one thing that you potentially may or may not be doing that is holding you back from achieving what you need to achieve in life.
And that is self-reflection. So this is when everybody mutes and stops the podcast and realizes they can never swallow life as a whole and would rather just ignore the issues rather than actually face them head on. And I think it's just quite apparent recently, and I say this from a practical application in the sense of working with clients and actually working with people, just at the moment how unable I guess we are to swallow the hard pills of life, which is that sometimes we need to look back on things that we have done or behaved like or actioned and realize that maybe that wasn't the right or the best thing for you. And you end up technically having to learn from your mistakes to get anywhere. Now, do not get me wrong. I think majority of life you're going to be learning from mistakes, until... I think it's got worse as well, but I just don't think at the moment people are willing to really swallow the truth of what the reality actually is in their life on a day-to-day basis, and that is massively holding people
it does.
Back
it holds people back hugely, where if there is no self-reflection and you don't do a level of self-assessment, then you're just going to blindly lead yourself down a road which may or may not benefit you in the long term. And it's a very uncomfortable and confronting thing to do, especially if it's realizing that you yourself may potentially be your own biggest hurdle, especially when it comes to self-care through nutrition and training, and it's very relevant for what Georgia and I do as a business, where people always have the best intentions, but then can sometimes, if there is no self-reflection on a consistent basis, you may or may not potentially change or not change the habits and environments that you need to achieve a goal.
I think, to be honest with you, I think this is a reality, and if anybody ever wants a reality check, it's definitely the person, me, myself, and I would be giving it. But I do think that we struggle to self-reflect these days, because we spoke about this briefly on another podcast, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, on the fact that I feel like a lot of people are wrapped up in cotton wool. And I think that approach to, especially when you maybe have health issues that come up, a lot of people that I speak to, whether that's clients or people that are interested in coaching, very much struggle to accept certain things, because normally we will see people at their most vulnerable when they're wanting to make change, when they're interested in making change, when they've thought about making change. And so when you see people in their most vulnerable aspects and you bring up or highlight certain aspects of somebody's lifestyle or whatever, which could be a compounding issue, it's almost like we just don't want to accept it, when I guess the truth is that you should be accepting that, to then kind of swallow it and then try and think of a strategy to move past that. And I think it's so much easier said than done, that we hold on to things for such long periods of time thinking that it's the right thing and it's this and that, when you deep down know it's just not. And it's effectively making you make a massive amounts of mistakes because you're just unable to go to yourself, do you know what, actually you are the problem. It's not everybody else in your environment, it's not everything like that. Sometimes we have to think, well, what can I control in my life? And if you can't control something externally or internally, you either reach out for help for it or you don't focus on it. But what you can control should be your focus. And the reality is, when it comes to nutrition, training, lifestyle habits, is that, you know, nobody, very rarely in this world does somebody have a gun to your head telling you not to do something or to do something. You know, the reality is that we are in control of our mindsets and our mental capacity, and also just our physical well-being overall. And so when we damage that, or we know that we're doing things that are compounding it, it's like we're just unable to accept it, you know. And it's exactly the same as, like, I guess so many things in your life, you know, when something goes wrong, I guess the failure, learning from failure, it's how you behave after you've effectively made that mistake or failed that's going to effectively differentiate you from the person that you want to be, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
And sometimes, talking from personal experience, like, it hurts. I mean, it does hurt when you're like, do you know what? You are the reason that you're feeling this current way. You are the reason that you are the way you are. And, you know, you're constantly going to blame others, and you're going to always pass your criticism onto others. But actually, when we turn it back round, it's just a direct reflection on ourselves. And I think this is not just behaviour in health. I think it's a behaviour overall, like how you treat somebody, how, you know, it comes back around. Like, for example, if somebody's horrible to somebody, and the psychology of it, normally it's because they're effectively deflecting from their own issues, or their own jealousy, or their own insecurities, or their own lack of being able to manage something. So they turn it around in quite pessimistic, angry ways, when actually most of the time we have to turn that mirror on ourselves and realise that maybe this situation didn't work out, or this thing that I wanted didn't work out because I actually was the one that stopped it. But I think it's one of these things with self-reflection. It's not something you need to do every week, I don't think. I think it's something that you...
Well, I think like we do weekly check-ins, and I think it is a good thing to do it weekly, so you always have your finger on the pulse. And generally, when they've done numerous studies in terms of weight loss, adherence, consistency, self-monitoring, you know, they generally find that people that do some form of self-assessment on a regular basis are far more prone to changing habits, which then lead to regulating your body weight better, your body fat better. And it's that consistent need of self, you know, like, people in this industry demonize weighing yourself, but there is very strong evidence that self-assessment with weighing yourself on a daily basis has a far more profound impact on an adherence and consistency when it is sticking to nutritional choices, exercise choices, you know, things like that.
Yeah, but I don't think it's always cut to do with a weight loss purpose. Like, you know, there's plenty of people, for example, we've taken on board. Yes, I get it.
It's done in that sense because it's quantifiable.
It is, but I think, you know, I think we are inherently, like awful for this, and I always tell you this, Mark, like I literally always say this to you. I'm like, people do not think the way that we think on a day-to-day basis. We are so ingrained to data, to how our body moves, to how it should be fueled, to the absolute biomechanics down to a bloody T. Like most people are not even aware of their own body, let alone thinking or keeping track of this. And I always say this, like, this is not just self-reflection, does not come down to the fact of, oh, I'm overweight and I now need to self-reflect to realize that I was the reason why I'm overweight. I think it happens in so many different ways. Like we've had multiple people say to us, I really want to build muscle, and do absolutely nothing that's going to encourage that. So, and that's exactly like another point of view. Or it could be, I really want to be like this, and then they'll go and completely and utterly do the absolute opposite. And it's the same with, I really need to be pain-free, and then they don't go and follow the training program you've written for them. You know, it's like all of these things, and it's like, well, there were reasons why this is done a certain way.
You could self-reflect in any aspect of your life.
Absolutely.
Whether it's
relationships,
family, business, you know.
I think it's one of the strongest it's one of the most progressive movements you can do in your like mental thinking or clarity, because the reality is that, you know, there's times where like things have just not gone right well in my life in any way, shape or form. Like I don't tend to announce shit when it goes wrong, but what I do tend to do is I look on it and I have to refine it. I have to learn from it. And, you know, not everything do I always want to learn from, you know. Like there's plenty of times where you make financial things where you're like, oh fuck, do you know what I mean? But the reality is, in hindsight, you learn from it. You take from that and you go, oh, I'm not going to do that again, or I'm going to hold back, or I'm going to actually think about it. And I'd say my personality and yours is very hasty to make decisions, and that can sometimes be very reflective on our daily lifestyles, our business, or the way that we do things, because we want to refine, we want to be better, but sometimes we make that hasty choice of doing it too soon without maybe thinking about it. And then we're effectively having to pick up the pieces when you're like, oh fuck, I shouldn't have really done that, or this isn't really going to work out. But if we hadn't have realised that and hadn't self-reflect, we would have been way further down the fucking line, and absolutely, you know, then it's effectively unmanageable. And then so I think if you can prevent something happening, like long term, and you know, in today or tomorrow, you know that you can do something that is going to prevent something going worse. Maybe you think of if we're talking health now, you look at your health and you go, do you know what, this is only going to go worse, this is only going to go downhill if I don't do something about it. Then at least you can then realize that you are technically with that mental processing, you are then setting yourself up to self-reflect, which you have done, to realize you need to make change, and then effectively prevent something going even worse, you know, down the line. And that prevention is so key in everything in your life. Like, you know, if we can prevent getting to the worst position,
getting into a rut, then absolutely prevent it. But it's like almost like we've spoken about this before on like a podcast we did on why do we leave things till it's like rock bottom. And I would say that most of the time, because it's a lack of self-reflection, it's a lack of like want to swallow something. Like I will talk and I will consult with people who hate what I have to say. They don't want to hear it because they know it's factually true. But what about when people self-reflect and are oblivious to, you know, like for example, somebody could self-reflect and go, okay, the reason why I put on so much weight, let's say over lockdown, for example, was because and then insert, you know, nature versus nurture. So I started eating lots of carbohydrates, and, you know, then what happens if that self-reflection is not necessarily always reflective of the
but that comes down to education, in my opinion. Like I think, like, you know, you can always look back, and this is, you know, people could self-reflect and they could go, oh, I've put on weight, or I haven't moved enough, and then they blame it on something else. Do you know what I mean? So they'll be like, it's because I've eaten this, or because the reality is if we took like lockdown for an example, or the pandemic in general, is that people's health is at like an all-time low at the moment. Like we've never actually come across so many people who are in such a diabolical state with their health due to the pandemic. But nobody wants to swallow that we had like this really rare situation happen for like 2 or 3 years of our lives, and nobody accepts that, and so they blame it on all the other things they didn't do, but yet won't do it now. Like I've spoken with clients where they're like, I know that like for me to actually get this, I need to move more, in the sense of I need to like get up and I need to go for a walk, or I need to actually like prioritize it. I used to do this, you know, I used to go into the office and I used to do this, and because so much has changed, your health then takes the back seat, because you're like, oh no, it's fine. Do you know what I mean? It's absolutely fine. I'm kind of used to this now because we've spent so long in it. And then suddenly one day it's meant to be the complete opposite. It's meant to be back to what it used to be. And I just don't think people, you know, when you self-reflect and then you're effectively saying something's the blame, you're not self-reflecting.
But what happens if you're unconscious with your self-reflection? So, for example, somebody who is trying to consume a calorie-controlled diet, but then potentially eat out on numerous bases, let's say twice a week, every 4 days, you know, they're eating a meal out or 2 meals out, so on and so forth. But then when that is highlighted, they're not even conscious that that is even a thing. Do you know what I mean? So when you say, well, you do eat out quite a bit, and you're always choosing quite rich meals, and you don't really know the cooking process and how many calories are going into those meals and what the contents of that meal is. So you then are not able to say with confidence that you are reaching a certain, let's say, calorie target. But then when that's highlighted, it's like, no, I don't. Because that person, it's so subconscious that it's not registered as even a hurdle.
You can't
in the
expect,
first
like,
place.
nothing in this, like, I don't know, I don't like the fact like that we always refer back to calorie controlled. Like,
okay, but like, let's say somebody's at work and they think that they're doing really, really well, but the reality is they're probably not fulfilling the obligations at which their company has expectations of, and then when they go to self-reflect on why they might not be progressing the way that they're progressing, the fact that it's not even on their radar makes it very, very hard for people to then self-reflect and like problem solve when
I don't think you can ever say that everybody is willing to self-reflect. Like, there's plenty of people in life who think everybody else is a dickhead when actually they are the dickhead, and so they're already involved in the fact of their process. Like the same as what we always say about the very successful, powerful men, especially in this world, who are like surrounded by yes men. Do you know what I mean? People that are like, yeah, like, do you know what I mean? That was a great idea. Wow, mate, you're so amazing. If you're bigged up 24/7 for the choices you're making, normally this comes with a wealth status of some degree. You know, the reality is you're going to think the world literally shines out of your arsehole, and nothing's going to make you think differently because you're surrounded in an environment with think that. I think self-reflection, you know, if we took like back to what? If
you're blind to the hurdle,
you can't self-reflect, and some people can never, and some people won't ever, and nobody. But and this is what I'll go bang on again. Let's say they do
self-reflect, but they're just so oblivious to that being a hurdle.
Because my point is nobody is self-reflecting properly if you're automatically blaming something. So you take the example of, I'm in lockdown, I gained loads of weight because I started eating more carbohydrates. That's not self-reflection. That's assigning blame to something. That's already finding the blame before you've even self-reflected, when you're the problem. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're the one telling yourself, actually, no, I'm blaming something else for this. Again, that's not self-reflection. The minute it opens your fucking mouth and you say, no, it was something else, that's not self-reflection. There are times you have to work through that self-reflection to realise there could be some compounding issues, but you've got to then realise that you were the one doing certain things or doing certain actions before you blame it on something so minute or, you know. And I think time and time again, people forget that. It's like, I have thought about it, but then I've just blamed somebody else for it. You know, I've worked with so many people where it's like, oh yeah, my husband can't do this, or my children won't allow me to. I mean, it's just like, I get it. Do you know what I mean? There's so many environmental factors, but that is not self-reflection. You can look at your life in intricate detail, or you can just glaze over it. And some people just glaze over it, and that's absolutely fine.
Sure.
But are you ever going to feel very fulfilled? Never. And I've not worked with one person, especially those that think they always know better, or they, or God forbid that they could ever do something wrong, or they're maybe brought up to believe that they're perfect, and that, with academia brings fucking all of this and I'm superior to everybody else. I've worked with so many people like that, and I didn't work with them for a very long period of time because it's absolutely unenjoyable. Yeah. Where people are just unable to self-reflect. The minute you go, do you know what, maybe you should look at this, because they're like, fuck you, you're wrong.
How about a refund?
Yeah, it's, that's the thing, that's the reality. And I think certain cultures bring in that, and I'm not going to lie about it. We've worked with multiple global, across the world, with loads of different cultures and loads of different people. And there's certain cultures which just don't match up to what you would expect, and that's absolutely fucking
Remember
fine.
when we did online training for a whole bunch of people in Zimbabwe, and we would literally put to our limits with regards to dietary choices, food availability. I had to do
nutritional plans for people that were I can't even get, and it was the only reason we did that in Zimbabwe was because we did a giveaway. This was fucking ages ago. I'll never do a giveaway again. What a waste of time. I'm sorry. Nobody's getting shit from me. I give far too much away on a day-to-day basis, I feel, anyway, my soul. But no, I do think, there's always limiting factors to things, but it's definitely not blatant. I was actually having this conversation with my mum the other day, where I was just like, we are not, as much as my mother gave birth to me and your mother gave birth to you, and you know what I mean, and we're related, the same as I've got a sibling, my sister, and you've got brothers, we're not the same fucking people.
You're very different.
We have paths, completely different lifestyles, and that is also another thing why we can't compare each other. We can't, the whole way through my fucking life, my younger years to my teenage years, I did direct comparison to my sister, always, because my sister was older than me by 18 months. Yeah. She was more academic. She was in better shape. She was the high school sweetheart.
There's also a touch of favoritism.
Yeah, well, yeah, in a strong sense, yes, but we're not going to get into that because you've got to let shit go these days.
Is that your motto today?
Let shit go.
Let shit go.
I just feel there's no point. There's just absolutely no point. I do sometimes overanalyze other people's behaviours and situations and just think, why the fuck would somebody do that? And then I'm just because they're a bit of a cunt, to be quite honest with you. Actually, and I think that's okay to sometimes accept. I know people are oh my God, that word's so awful.
It's sometimes the only just way to describe somebody. That's some people are just not nice.
I think if you've done a lot of self-reflection, you realise that there are certain times when you fucked up, or you've done things that you're not happy with, or not pleased with, or not, that you can then just be it's not assigning blame to somebody, but sometimes you can't excuse other people's behaviours, and sometimes it's not even worth it. Yeah. It's not even worth going past it. So you just got to move. You learn this, do you know what I mean? I've learned this so much since being more prominent online throughout the fight. Just there's no fucking point.
What was Richard's favourite saying? If you argue with a fool, you are a fool.
Yeah, it's so true. And we learned this time and time again. Trying to make your point, really educate. It's not we've spent years of fucking, degree level and all of this intricate workings of qualifications, and spent time and time again researching ourselves, and then be told you're wrong when you're you're right. There's no point.
Yeah, there's no point.
It's like when you say to someone, in human psychology, when you say to somebody no as the first part of the sentence, they've already automatically got either annoyed or they've switched off. And it's these things where it's how you communicate with people to understand that, to get your point across. And why the fuck are we wasting our time? We can't help 7 billion people.
Yeah, you just sometimes you flogging a dead horse when it comes to trying to change people's opinions with regards to anything in life, whether it's politics.
Do you know what? I'm not going to lie, and I think this is totally normal, because I think people think that we're superior in a way because we have this routine in place with like nutrition training, and we're just like so healthy on a day-to-day basis. But you know, do you know how many times I wanted, like, we used to live in Fulham, so we were like by the river. I would literally want to lob my phone like literally directly into the River Thames and jump in following it. Like, do you know what I mean? And just thinking, fuck this.
Yeah, I think everything in life, everyone's got their strengths and weaknesses, and just because our strengths are nutrition, training, and all that kind of stuff
we've got a hell of another week. Like,
doesn't
so
mean that
many
we haven't got
weaknesses.
weaknesses in other areas of life that are, you know, vast. And just to think that everybody...
How are you fucking making this?
No, but I'm just saying, like, there's obviously, like, upon self-reflection, I'm sure there's a lot of things that you and I could both agree on that we think that we could have done better and should be doing better in.
Yeah, and if without self-reflection, we would never have realised that.
Yeah, so, you know, it's not like we're on our high horse and thinking that we're better than other people because, you know...
It's like the last thing, but I do know, this is what I like think is I'm not better than other people in any way, shape or form, but in certain aspects of my professional career, I am, do you know what I mean? And that's because I've fucking educated myself enough, and I have a huge passion in it. That's the reality. And if you're passionate about something, you're more willing to learn about it. And, you know, I really, you know, we say this time and time again, like, any job I was going to do, in a sense that was going to be successful as a career, was going to help people in some way or another. I could never, I don't know, I'm just not somebody that cannot just help somebody. Like, and I think that self-reflection has bitten me in the fucking arse so many times. Like, I've given far too much value to people that have literally given fuck all back. Yeah. I've given, you know what I mean? And this is the thing, like, you've got to learn,
That's
you know.
the only way. And self-reflecting is generally when you failed, because failure is part of a human's existence.
Failure.
Exactly. So once you failed and you're like, shit, that didn't go the way I wanted it to go, that's when you need the self-assessment, self-reflection to then be like, okay, well, where did I go wrong? And how this time round, once I've dusted myself off and, you know, go back to reattempt whatever goal you're trying to achieve, you know, that's where you're able to find those nuggets of knowledge where, okay, that potentially was a hurdle, that was counterproductive to my goals. This is how I should then approach it going forward, is by making that a self-assessment after you've potentially had a hiccup.
But I also think it's really important that, like, most of the time, and I will speak completely, this is from my own journey, and I mean, having helped so many people through theirs, it's also a massive factor to theirs as well. You are going to make this mistake potentially like 3, 4, 5, 6 times before you learn from it. It's not always the first time that you make a mistake you're like, fuck, I need to change something. Wow, do you know what I mean? It tends to be a repetitive behaviour that you start to catch up on yourself. Like, it doesn't necessarily make one, you know, because you do one thing doesn't mean that it's effectively going to be life-changing. You know, sometimes you need to repeat this mistake on countless times to realise that it's just counterproductive to anything you're trying to either achieve or get to. And you know, I think this is, you know, if you don't learn from something, then you're going to repeat the behaviour until you do. Do you know what I mean? And you've got to, when those processes do repeat itself and it's starting to wear down on you, you've got to literally take it and fucking break it. Like, it's like, and you know, as I said, like, I think it's very easy to say that, oh, when you make one mistake, you've got to go and refine and just overanalyze your life and just hope that everything goes really well. No, like, most of the time, let's talk like financial. I'm sure many people listening to this will also understand how many times where, like, your emotions might be a bit low, you know, or you're feeling a bit shit, or you're just feeling like you want some kind of support or attention or I guess satisfaction for something, and you end up spending like tons of money on like just shit that's going to try and make you feel better, for it to only arrive, and then you're like, okay, cool. Do you know what I mean? And you realise that actually I shouldn't have spent that money. It's actually made me feel worse because now my bank account is as low as my fucking feelings. And like, I've got something, I don't know where this satisfaction is coming from. But this is a very prone thing that happens. You know, when I was at my lowest, when I was like, I guess like the whole way through my weight loss journey, I wasn't always super happy. You know, there were times where I had to like really be quite uncomfortable to the point where I found other vices. So like the whole way through my weight loss journey, like I smoked cigarettes because that was a vice to me, like being able to be consistent with one thing.
Yeah.
Now, is that a good thing? No. Like, you've still got a vice that you're leaning on. And it's exactly the same as when I started to lose a lot of weight and I couldn't eat at night and I couldn't hide food and I couldn't go and bingy, that I would then end up spending money at like 2 a.m. Do you know what I mean? Was that compounding my sleep and like doing this just to get that, I've got something coming. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like...
What were you buying?
Oh God, I used to buy so much random shit. Like, you know, I've been on Vestiaire Collective just like selling like all my designer wallets. Like, how many fucking designer wallets is one? I don't even use a wallet. I mean, like, I literally use like I've used my phone most of the time for contacts. Like, I had a hideous amount. I used to just buy like things that I thought, you know what,
like
I need
shoes.
that right and there. Trainers was quite bad, but then at least they were like productive. Trainers, like, at least like something I wear.
Like fashion, was it like jackets and jumpers and stuff like that?
But like, I was like, when I was very overweight and I didn't action and self-reflect, what I used to do when I wanted to do something which was erratic, that wasn't drugs or like drink or like, is I would then go and buy like extreme fat burners online. Do you know what I mean? Like, fuck, I said to Mark the other day, do you know who I used to buy from? Fucking unbelievable. Jodie Marsh, I'm sure, because she was the only woman that was like representing bodybuilding, and I always knew that I wanted a physique like slightly like a bodybuilder, not because I'm warped, just because I like it and I like the training style and I like what it brings. But you literally bought her. They were called Semtex. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, they were pretty decent as well.
What is a fat burner, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, we all used to ephedra,
CLA,
ephedrine. What else was there? The original Jacked 3D was basically used to make people, athletes, piss hot. So
this is the thing, like, you know, there's
caffeine tablets.
I would be literally having a heart attack, and I wouldn't have even like, you know, and then put like cocaine intake or something on top of that. Yeah, and it's a fucking recipe for disaster.
Mix in recreational drugs, and then alcohol, and then not sleeping, and then
poor nutrition, and then not moving enough. Yeah, I mean, it's like a combination.
The recipe, like, we looked at photographs of ourselves. It was like 6-7 years ago, and like, I don't know, but I looked ropey.
My face, yeah, fuck, you can just tell. Like, and I was not even as old as I am now, do you know what I mean? But you know, it's true that like, it wasn't 7 years ago that we were taking Semtex. It was much longer than that.
It was ages ago.
In the sense of just like what you can, like, when we were working, heavily working, and we didn't focus on anything other than work, where we were training on average like 15 clients a day, like, you know, dealing with some very high net worth individuals with quite a lot of pressure on you to just always be there and fucking, you know, it took a toll on us massively. Like, we didn't eat properly, do you know what I mean? We'd have like 12 almonds and like a fucking coffee, and then we'd like go and like get a takeaway, like fucking Nando's, and just like gorge in the evening.
Super unhealthy.
At like 10 in the evening, because we'd only got back from work at like, you know, and if you literally looked, like, our sleep was shit. We'd go to bed at like 11 and have to wake up at like 3:30 or 4. Like, what the fuck? And my skin, I've been blessed with great skin the whole way through my life, but apart from then, and I look at photos and both of us just look like puffy. There's no other way to describe it.
Yeah, and we were smoking as well, which doesn't help.
Yeah, I mean, like, nothing really helps in those senses.
Smoking, like 5 a day?
Yeah, but this was years ago. So
yeah, it was ages ago.
But I do think...
I think everybody had a cigarette back in the day. Do you know what I mean? Like, when you turn
clients of mine still have cigarettes and they don't tell us.
Yeah, I mean, everyone rocks up to the gym with chewing gum and smells like an ashtray. And there's guys that literally smoke...
Oh my God.
Like, in between their sets.
To be honest with you, there's genuinely a sign in our gym that says, two signs, no smoking and no vaping. Like, can you even believe that that's in a facility? Like,
yes,
because
the facility allows the younger generation,
No, it's not the younger generation. It's the fucking older generation that are worse.
It's the younger generation.
Who are the ones that are smoking outside? Everybody that's like 40 plus years old, 40, 50, 60. Don't lie to me.
No, they're the ones who are vaping.
Who are the ones that in the cubby holes of the gym have cigarette packets, at least 2 or 3? Are they 50 years old or are they 20? I mean, like, personal trainers, reason people smoke in our industry is because like it's the only like break you ever get sometimes. That's why. I think that's honestly why.
I'll never forget, like, people making the assumption that just because you are a personal trainer within the industry that you live like a monk or like a nun.
But now we do.
Yeah, I'm saying now we do, but
To
like
be
the
quite honest
general,
with you, now we fucking...
your average PT. This is a vast statement. I'm stereotyping, but your average PT, you know, likes to have a good time.
Well, there was always this thing in the industry is that alcohol, like in the sense of like the physique industry, is the fact that alcohol would obviously make you gain weight because it was like additional calories. But there's two things that don't: drugs and smoking. And that's why, like, when you ever went to like a Christmas party with a load of trainers, fucking hell,
Oh my
Jesus
days.
Christ! Like it was like the whole of Narcos, like inside a fucking nightclub. You might as well have had the Mexicans transporting directly to the table. The drugs that were taken because it was like the leanest way of just getting completely and utterly fucked up. It was eye-opening, actually. When I came into the industry, I was like, fuck, I've already had enough problems with drugs as it is. I don't think I need to make this worse.
Creatures.
But people that you think would be like the pre and postnatal, like yummy mum, do you know what I mean? Who would be like fucking racking and railing lines off. Like literally you'd be like, Jesus Christ. Clearly the Lululemon hasn't fucking satisfied you.
The Lululemon ambassador.
Like literally his yoga and mindfulness, just fucking literally snorting lines of cocaine. And I have seen it happen so much. Just like the most twatted ones were the ones where
always
you're
like the yoga instructors or the Pilates instructors.
I know.
Just getting absolutely fired up.
It was like they always had to have that really like pristine approach to like looking after people and moving people gently.
Super.
But when they turned up at raffles, it was a completely different story.
Oh my days, raffles.
Fucking hell, yeah, we don't need to talk about raffles.
When you go upstairs to the private members area, then that's when you start to see things that you question reality.
To be fair though, we do watch quite a few programmes on TV which are questionable to say the least. Like how many have we watched recently of just like sex? Like this is not like Pornhub, guys, do you know what I mean? Like we were watching one on Pornhub the other day.
We were watching Pornhub, or we were watching something on Pornhub?
We weren't watching Pornhub, Mark. Our relationship is fine. No, we weren't watching.
We were watching actual porn. We were watching a program on Pornhub.
Yes, which
not
was
to say that there's anything wrong with watching porn, but
it's actually quite fascinating, the porn industry and how it works.
I think it really depends. Like there's people, people make.
I genuinely think if you're watching other people have sex, I feel like it does spark something in a human's brain where you're like.
I think the accessibility of it is a bit worrying, considering the younger generation growing up.
But like Mark, like people of my age were getting fingered on the dance floor like 13.
Yeah,
that's so inappropriate. You've been alive for 13 years and you've got fingers inside of you.
But getting fingered and potentially being like
what time
7 years old and coming across like a gangbang when you're on your phone.
Especially if it's come from your dad's iPad or something.
You know what I mean? Like back in the day, like for us to watch porn, it was buying a magazine or going to. It was
almost embarrassing.
It was like an effort to go and get porn. Do you know what I mean? Like, even in the days of dial-up, you'd sit there and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to sit here for 4 days waiting for a picture to download. Do you know what I mean? Patience.
Sad fuck.
Patience. You know, patience.
Oh my
God. You just sit there, you're like...
What was it? Some like 50-year-old woman with like tits hanging out that were like rock hard and like a vagina that was like a proper porn pussy.
I think the first time was like a guy bought a magazine to school. It was obviously his dad's magazine, and it was like pretty softcore. There was no vagina, it was just boobies, and dudes went. You can't ballistic.
Even say. Can you say like? Breasts. Please don't say boobies. I honestly want to throw you out the window.
Okay, well, yeah, and then dudes went crazy for it.
It's because you imagine your little penises rubbing in between our wonderful breasts whilst they're rock hard and fake.
Jeez, are you like trying to do like a Nigella?
A Nigella for like porn, yeah, I'd be great. Do you know what I mean? Like, I would be great on the phone with somebody. I'd just be faking it the whole fucking way.
You'd have to sound sexy though.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Give us your sexy. Give me your sexy voice. Okay, hold on. Let's role play. Ring, 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 ring.
Oh, hi.
No, I'm not paying you to laugh though, am I? You need to sound sexy.
Okay, well, it can't take you fucking seriously.
Why?
So...
I'm phoning in.
Okay, well, you paid me £1 a fucking minute.
Okay,
off you go.
You ready? 3, 2, 1. Ring, ring.
Okay, well, where's the beeping? What have I got to pick up
can
straight
you need
away?
to answer the phone? Yeah, okay, I'm phoning. Ring, 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 ring.
Ring, ring. Okay.
Yeah, what's up?
Oh, hi, baby.
Hi, how are you?
Oh no, you wouldn't say that. You'd be having your fucking dick in
okay.
your hands,
I'm
having
so
your wank.
horny. I'm throbbing.
What are you wearing? You'd have to ask me.
I'm asking you, what are you wearing?
I'm wearing
What are you wearing?
your favourite panties, wedged up.
You're wedged.
Like, what are you trying to fucking now try and tell me what I'm meant to say? I don't think we've ever role played like this, have we? Clearly. What would you like? Yeah, like literally. Yeah, like yeah, baby, yeah. You've got your dick's so hard.
You kind of sound a little bit Asian.
Oh my god, that is not okay to say. What, like? No, isn't you look to me like you've done something wrong there? Oh, I don't think I should have said that.
I'm just saying, you're like, oh yeah, like
well,
you big,
okay.
big boy.
Here's me, okay?
Yeah.
Here's me. I haven't had my vagina touched in 45 years, and I'm ringing fucking Dude Line or whatever it's fucking Dude Station, okay? Yeah. I'm ringing. Here we go. Okay, ring. What are you saying?
What am I saying?
I just
hello?
really want you to...
Okay,
no,
let's go. Hello?
I just really want you to strum my clitoris.
I'm going to strum your clitoris like a bass guitar.
Is that what you're going to say? And then I can just imagine you doing an air guitar, like you're going to
slap your vagina.
That sounds awful.
Like Mike Tyson in his heyday.
Oh, can you just see the theme here? Do you want to pulverize
me? Your bean like Jack and the Beanstalk.
Okay, it's not always about coming up with like a phrase. Do you know what I mean? Like you're meant to keep the conversation going. Like, oh, are you wet? Do you know what I mean? Like, are you dripping? Is that?
Do I need to put down a warning?
It's not wet. Like, hi, have you fallen from fucking heaven because you're fucking, you know what I mean? Like, it's not, it's literally like, you're meant to keep the conversation flowing.
I'm stroking my massive dick.
Okay. My dick's throbbing for you. I could do a man's probably better than a woman.
Let's put it this way, we're not going to quit our day jobs.
Because it seems like we've got autism over this, like literally. But no, I guess in general terms, like we have watched a few programmes that have highlighted it. It just amazed me though. I do think like...
I feel like I'm missing out in life without having like a kink.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah. Because I feel like people that have like kinks, they get so much like pleasure from fulfilling those kinks that it kind of like shapes their entire personality. So it must be quite a altering experience.
Imagine being like Mark at the office though, and then Mark at the Christmas party like arrives in like a PVC suit, PVC, you know what I mean? What, not PVC, that's glue, isn't it?
You're basically describing a Lomax staff party when someone rocks up with like a ball gag in their mouth.
Yeah, and they're like, come fuck me in the toilets. Do you know what I mean? You're like, what? Do you know what I mean? I thought you were fucking a school teacher. Like, you know, it's...
Dudes used to say to people that we know, like, can you please come and fuck my wife so I can watch?
Yeah, that's so fucked up.
Yeah.
And you know what? So many people we know would probably do that.
So many people.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like... I don't think a kink forms you. I think it's a bit weird, and I think that's a problem unless your wife or your partner is on board with it. I think that if your partner's not on board with it, that's when you've got fucking problems.
Yeah, but like you know, you do see some of these when they fulfill their kinks, they seem to be quite.
Yeah, but like, imagine if the kink was like...
There's so much that goes into a kink as well. Do you know what I mean? It's the organisation, it's the planning. It's the anticipation, it's the action of the kink, it's the, you know what I mean? Like, this is the thing that I've noticed a lot with the...
I've noticed with my kinks is that...
With people with these types of kinks is like, it's also as much as the planning and the preparation as, do you know what I mean? And like the requirement of certain things. And I remember we watched that old lady who was like in spandex, not spandex, leather.
Yeah, I don't think you even know what the material is, let alone like fucking...
She had all the kit.
I can kind of like understand. I've always understood escorts, not prostitution. I just find that that's really sad. Because if you're a prostitute, most of the time, a lot of the time it's like you have to do it. Do you know what I mean? To make a living, or you're trafficked, and it's like horrific. But escorts is a chosen career for like a lot of people, and I definitely see like the need and the desire for it.
Yeah, both men and women.
I've been approached so many times online for like weird fetishes. Like it's actually
shoes.
almost like really weird. Like it's really weird. Yeah. And like in hindsight, like I should have always sent my shoes to them because I would have made like 10 grand.
Would you fart in a jar and send it to somebody?
Yeah, because you could just like get the dog to fart in it or something. That's so like super. Like you can't.
Would you not like put effort into the fart though and like cultivate it? That's what I would do. Make sure the people buying my farts got the best quality farts possible.
Oh, it's all placebo effect. You don't think that would escape from a jar? That was like, I don't know if anybody listening to this, but when we were growing up, you had fairies in a jar that your parents could sometimes buy it. And I used to have a fairy in a jar, and apparently, like, if you released it, the fairy would actually come alive. And genuinely, this was implemented on us, that it was like a magical fairy, and you open the jar. But like, obviously, that was so factually and fucking correct.
No,
like,
I think if you farted like a decent fart into a jar, I think it would stay there for a while.
Whoever gets off on a fart is just like honestly not okay.
They should be on a list.
They shouldn't be. They should be on a list. Yeah, like you know, like Trumpathon. I don't know, like the Trump list. Donald Trump. I just think that's just fucking weird. Yeah. That's like feces. Like we were watching that oh my god, what were we watching?
Hoarders.
No, the woman that they were trying to get her to stop eating her own feces.
Shit, yeah, it was Hoarders.
Was it Hoarders? Oh yeah, and she couldn't smell.
She couldn't. The woman was obviously psychologically impaired, and she was eating her own shit. But not only that, she was shitting in a bucket and bottles, and like her entire house was like the floor. Everything was like layered feces,
and so it had mold.
She had bread and food, not even in the cupboard, just laying on the thing, and she would like pick the mold off the food, and the guys were like trying to reason with her, like, don't you smell like all the feces? And she was like, I don't understand. It's the damp in the wall that you guys are smelling.
It's not the feces, and she's like surrounded by like so much shit.
It was the fact that you're like literally lying in it, and it was so bad that the council just knocked the woman's house down.
Yeah, oh my god, how disgusting. Like, can you actually even imagine? Like, when we had a puppy and it shat in the house, that was worse enough. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. This is why I won't have a child, God forbid, with the nappies and the explosions. But
I've got such a weak stomach, though. I don't know if I can
Mark
handle
is so pathetic with his stomach. No, don't. Like, you were even, when we even got a dog, like, you were like trying to pick up. Like,
makes me feel nauseous.
But I do think there's plenty of programs that me and my very good friend used to watch, which were the TLC programs where like women used to like eat air freshener or like have like relationships with inflatables or eat toilet paper, like tissue paper, like addicted to eating them. Like just imagine just like taking a roll of paper into like the office with you and just eating it. Can you just imagine? You're not normal. Like that's not fucking normal. But that's why I feel like Kinks
I'd like to experience
Kinks are getting into like a little bit of a sexy vibe. Do you know what I mean? A few toys or whatever, fine, okay. But Kinks where it's like you're like tying somebody up like a bird or something because you think that.
Or like the guys that you see I've seen on Instagram in New York, like in the center of like Manhattan, hands and knees. In latex, like a dog walking. That
doesn't just happen in New York. It happens in London. One of my clients was telling me about it.
I'm just fascinated by that. Like a person that wants to do that, just be walked around like a dog in like a latex suit in front of literally the entire world. Obviously, they don't know who you are, but it's just.
Well, it's the same as like when like women. There's like. Women paid to like put men in cages. I couldn't think of anything better. Bye bye.
I think the worst one has to be the grown men who like to breastfeed and wear adult diapers and walk around and
buy like a baby. Babies. That's fucking disgusting.
That's weird.
I was talking with my client because there was this. I saw this news article that came up about what would that a groom was found breastfeeding his mother on the day of the wedding by the bride. What would you do?
A what?
So that the groom, they're meant to be getting married, and the bride walked in on the groom breastfeeding his mother.
How can you breastfeed the mother breastfeeding him?
Like giving him milk from her tits.
Yeah, so it's the other way. Being breastfed by her mother. Yeah, I think you just.
Well, how is that the other way around?
You just
She's giving it to him.
Yeah, that's what I meant. That's what you meant.
Yeah, what was not meant about that?
You said he was breastfeeding his mother.
Did I? Yeah, that makes no sense, obviously.
Which would have been even worse, because she would have been sucking on his
But there was that whole
tit.
thing, like, when society was okay with humour in the UK, like, and now it's just like everybody's a snowflake. But like Little Britain and stuff, like Bitty and
my
that really pushed the fucking limits. But hilarious, absolutely fucking hilarious. Like, and people will never forget that humour. Like, that was one of the best TV shows. Ever.
British humour is top class. Like some of the old school stuff, Monty Python and stuff is also pretty jokes.
Oh God, that's such an old-fashioned thing to say. And they want to bring Monty Python back, and I'm like, you're all fucking geriatric. Just give it a break. Do you know what I mean? Nobody can be whacking staff now. Do you know what I mean? Like, nobody can be like behaving or saying the things now, because unfortunately most of it's to do with race.
Some people still do. South Park is
sexuality, you know, God forbid you should call somebody not a they these days. Which is fucking bizarre in my opinion. But, you know, we move on. It's not... I just feel like you lose your identity when you're not... Okay,
I think it swings in so many different ways, and you can't look at it like black or white, you know. If you go to Africa, you know, there was that very viral video of a presenter asking the Ugandan president if he would sit down with the leaders of the LGBTQ plus community, and the guy literally just started laughing. He just started laughing.
Did you not see what the Ugandans was brought in? Death penalty if they ever explode. That's fucking horrific.
You know what I mean?
Like, grow up.
Whilst everybody's, you know...
But that's also different cultures. Like, this is the thing. Like, we can never understand. It is a very different culture, and I'm definitely not pro in any way. But from a Western point of view, that's horrific. But for the cultural of that country or that continent, like, you know, we don't know that because we're just not that. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're living it. We're not.
Just started cracking up, and then everyone started laughing. It was such a ridiculous request that everybody just thought it was a joke.
I don't think it's a ridiculous request. I think there's been...
for certain cultures, it is a ridiculous request.
One thing that I kind of like is, like, have we lost all sense of just, like, who people are? Because if somebody said to me, this is my friend Mark, I would normally think that Mark is a man. Do you know what I mean? And that's just, like, because Mark is a male name, okay? Yeah. The same with, like, if you were to speak to... And somebody would say, oh, this is Emma, I would say, oh, it's a girl. Do you know what I mean? It's a woman. But now we have to tell people.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've never had somebody, like, unless I'm in, like, a deep conversation, sort of refer, like, she... I don't know, it's just a bit weird. Like, I get asked all the time, like, what are your pronouns? Like, well, my name's Georgia. I'd hope it's either going to be referred to as George and I'll come across like a man, or it's Georgia. Do you know what I mean? And then I'm a girl. Do you know what I mean? And I'm a woman. But... I do find it a bit strange. I think it is a very American, I have to say. It's very American to, like, have to put your pronouns at the bottom of your email. I just
think that the people that are going to not miss out, but the people that get impacted the most by, you know, this kind of narrative are just women in general.
That's a fucking lie.
Do you not think? I think women, you know, being told.
Okay, right. No, there's a bit of history here.
You know, but like that whole thing with J.K. Rowling just saying that, like, women menstruate, which is, you know, you can go into the weeds about that, but it's like such a pivotal and life-changing thing for a woman to happen on a monthly basis, and, you know, the hormonal cascade that a woman goes through on a monthly basis, and then through menopause and stuff like that, to completely disregard that altogether and disregard science.
I think it's
and
quite
biology,
obvious that we can't have another gender in this.
It kind of just plays down to, you know, the struggles that women go through on a consistent basis, and then you go into athletic performance.
Yeah, and I'm
who's
so
missing out
against
on that.
that.
Again, women are missing out, and it's just like, instead of celebrating the uniqueness of women and like the unique struggles that women go through, it's just been hijacked to being like, no, that's not the case because I feel a certain way. You know?
Yeah, but you know what? We're gonna at one point do a podcast on how, like, fucking condescending men are in general on a day-to-day basis. Not you. I'm just like, you know.
I think
not
the
a lot
condescending nature of men comes down to insecurity, though. It doesn't necessarily always come down to, like, them thinking they're better than you. It's just like an automatic kind of go-to because they feel vulnerable.
Yeah, I do, but I also think it's just like it's so normal that they wouldn't even like self-reflect and see that. You know what I mean? Like for example, like Mark always says to me, like, I just don't understand, because I guess you come from a Zimbabwean side, but like there were people whilst you were growing up who were in your family, friends or circle who were quite showy offy with money, should we say, that would like want to know people, want to know what you're up to, how much you're earning. You know what I mean? And like, but coming to the UK, like, we were quite like reserved of talking about money. Like my family is really reserved of talking about money just in general. And I'm actually quite a firm believer that going forward with our generations, for people to understand the value of money, they probably actually need to see what their parents are making or how hard their parents have worked to get to those positions, to then understand the expectation of like a certain life. And I think that that would have really helped me and my sister with understanding. Like I never knew how much my father earned or what is, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying
should you though?
But I think yes, because it teaches, because I then had the expectation that, you know what, I'm going to do all of this and I'm going to have exactly what my dad's had, because I've only seen him in the prime of his fucking... The reality is, this is absolutely no fucking way. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, and actually understanding that that expectation at certain ages is unrealistic. And that actually, do you know how hard your father's had to work to get that, and how many, you know, he sacrificed so much when we were growing up, and, you know, and... We don't see that. We just see the monetary value, which is, oh, I go to a private school, I get nice things, I go on nice holidays, I live in a nice house, my parents have got nice cars, I get to do things, you know what I mean?
I guess there must be a lot of people that are like, you know, in that similar situation where if you have to benchmark your success against the people around you, you know, and you're trying to benchmark your success against somebody who's, I mean, like,
but for example,
that much further experienced, that much more, they potentially could be much higher than you in an organizational structure. I guess if you're always having to benchmark against people that have potentially got more than you, then, or are in different situations to you or circumstances to you, then that could also have a negative impact on. Because, like you said, like I know quite a few guys whose dads were, let's say, in the mining sector in Zimbabwe and made millions and millions, literally millions and millions of dollars, and have kind of formed their personality, their habits, and everything around trying to aspire to be like their father, which I guess in that context, there's a time and a place, do you know what I mean, for people making
I think some of it does come down to luck. I genuinely think down
just
to
being
luck
in the
and
right
timing.
yeah, exactly. So, but then you, even though you potentially have quote unquote a better upbringing in the fact that you've potentially had nicer holidays and things like that, doesn't necessarily reflect on, you know, the fact that, for example, our generation can't just jump onto the property ladder. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not. But back then, if you were diligent enough and you had a good enough job, the chances of you being able to get on the property ladder and starting to accrue wealth through the appreciation of bricks and mortar, then it makes it that much harder to kind of be when you like, well.
Well, I just don't think we've had the I don't think we've had the strictness on money that what our generations above us had. Like, I think we are now more than ever allowed to take out so much on credit. I think we are allowed to loan. We always look like we've got nicer things when it could be on loan or borrowed or rented, and we never disclose it unless like you're paid to do so. And you know, and these are the things where people are building these expectations that they need at certain ages, where like if you took my like parents at our ages right now, they didn't have any of that. They were working really fucking hard, but they also weren't seeing it. They had luxury things, don't get me wrong, like they strove to have nicer things or a nicer house and they worked for it, but they didn't see all this endless spending where it just kind of demoralizes the value of money altogether. Like you see people who have literally just been a personality of some degree or an influence of some degree make millions at the age of like 20.
Yeah. Sure.
And you're like, oh my God, that's so amazing. She's so successful. It's like, what's she done? Like, all she's done is wear shit or just say, hi guys, just to let you know about my life. And then that's suddenly a career. I'm not saying that it's not a successful financial career, but it's almost fucking weird because now we have the choice and chance to engage and see what others have and how others live so much that we effectively live through that. We're like, oh, we need that, otherwise we're not successful. I do think, like, I know it in the sense of a parent to a child. Like, I do think, like, they're telling them, like, daddy earns X amount of money per year is you've got to do it in a way which is very educational, because it could be like, daddy earns fucking millions of pounds a year and it's because he's got enough, and that comes across incredibly pretentious. And like, if I spoke to like
there could be a child that's like 6, and then I'm not going to aspire to anything because I know that I'm going to be financially set up or fine. And we've know and worked with loads of people that know that their parents are incredibly wealthy and are basically just crackheads because they know that they're going to inherit shitloads of money.
But you know, I was speaking to a client the other day, and she said that her eldest daughter, who's only 5, said to her the other day, like, Mummy, there's this girl at school and she doesn't have somebody looking after her or keep picking up. Her mum picks her up at school. And like, my client was like, yes, that's because her mum is doing the mother's job and doesn't have a nanny. Do you know what I mean? But isn't it normal for somebody to look after us? You know what I mean? It's like a nanny costs like 50 to 100k a year in the UK for like a British nanny. Like, it's like, and like, she's that expectation of like seeing help or seeing, you know what I mean, as now cemented in a 5-year-old. She was like, oh my God. She literally said to her daughter, like, no, please stop thinking like that. You know, mummy and daddy work full time. That's why you have a nanny, because otherwise
it's not just like a default setting.
Like, it's not a default. But this is the thing, like, I do think, like, not saying at the age of 5, like, daddy earns or mummy earns this amount of money, but I think when it comes to the age where you're giving your children like allowances or digital money of some degree, which it is moving forward now. You don't have pocket money like change and cash. You have like fucking a transfer. Like, you have your own cards at like, you're contactless at age fucking 3. You come out, you're contactless. Do you know what I mean? You know, and this is the worry, is the fact that £2 a week or £20 a week or £10 a week or the allowance you got every month or whatever that pocket money is becoming it's just numbers. It's not actual physical items. I think actually teaching a child with physicality, like when the tooth fairy comes and here's £2 under your pillow, you fucking pumped. You go and spend it on some stickers at the stationery shop or a packet of sweets. Like, but now it's like, mummy's transferred you £10 to your account. Okay, gone. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not the same as like giving and receiving. Like, my grandparents used to always like hand me like cash. Do you know what I mean? When I was younger, like me and my sister, like some rolled up notes in, like, I think, you know, it's just like a little bit of a grandparent thing.
It's a very grandparent thing.
Like, what is it like? Oh, we've just transferred it to Beatrice's fucking bank account. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not the same. The value's not there. We just see it as coming and going at the moment. It's like, comes into the account, it goes. Like, I've said that for the past like 2 or 3 years, like moving house, moving country. It's like, comes in, it goes, it fucking goes. Like, literally, it's like in, out, like literally. And you're like, oh my God, but then you can't even get tied up with just numbers. It's inflated. You know what I mean? Like, that could all disappear tomorrow. Like what happened in Zimbabwe. Do you know what I mean? You could have a bank account, work bloody fucking hard, and then they just change it.
The old switcheroo.
Yeah, just switch it fucking off, and then suddenly that value that you think you're worth, do you know what I mean, is now gone.
Yeah, literally overnight.
And so there is something to say that, like, I do like a bit of cash. I used to get paid quite a lot of cash in London. It was wonderful.
I love the smell of cash.
Now it's all plastic. It like slips out your pocket, slips out your hand, slips into fucking buying things.
Yeah, not the new cash, the old cash. The
old cash was fucking great. £50 notes. It was either drug dealers,
the Saudis,
or us that had £50 notes. So literally, if you paid them 50, they'd look at us like,
oh no, bro, Russian. Like, I got Russian ladies. Yeah,
but let's just say Russian, foreigners. Saudi, like Middle Eastern.
Yeah.
Like, I used to get paid vast amounts by Middle Eastern.
When I used to train the granddaughters of the King of Saudi Arabia, they used to pay me in 50s that were still wrapped from the bank.
That's when you just know they've gone fucking straight to the vault.
They had never been in circulation. They were the crispiest notes. still wrapped.
And then what do you do, Mark? What do? We take all of the money back, we go and put it in a drawer to take to the bank at the weekend, then only realise our cleaner's stolen all of it.
I mean, you've always got to bring up the negative.
Oh, sorry, but these are times of self-reflection. It's fucking key.
You've always got to bring up the negative.
That was the dumbest idea we ever had.
Yeah.
We thought it was in like the most...
No, we didn't think that. We were just naive to think that nobody would
We were too busy.
Like,
we were like, okay, well, we can't take it to the bank now. We'll take it on the weekend.
This woman opened, wasn't even hidden. It was in a drawer.
No, Mark, it was in a Bose headphone case. I actually fucking remember
so discreet. And she just helped herself. So
yeah, I remember like Mark was like, we were going to the bank. It was like, wait, I thought we had like, and it's like, oh my god,
like,
she
only took 700.
And then she messaged me like, "Hi, I'm ill. I can't come back and clean." I was like,
know.
yeah, because you've taken all my fucking money. Like, literally.
Yeah, but with self-reflection, we learned.
Yes, exactly. With self-reflection, if we hadn't have learnt from that, we'd have continually done it. And I think it was that whole thing that when you did have a lot of cash, you had to be aware of like. But I think right now, don't put your money in the fucking bank. Have it under your bed unless you're going to get arm robbed, because it's no benefit, is that? Like literally, there's no benefit. Like we just lose money. Do you know what I mean? Unless you're invested in something, having your money, like all your money in the bank, is like probably one of the worst things you can do. Do you know what I mean? To be honest with you, I think that's one of the things you learn.
Today's climate, with all the banks closing down, you never know with a bank run could happen and all your money is gone. Yeah,
I'll give you a prime example. My sister is on is formed a tech startup, really fucking successful one. She's had a lot of investment, American money put behind it. It was all in Silicon Valley Bank.
Yeah,
and then overnight it was like, have we just lost the whole business and all of our employees and everything that comes with it?
Yeah.
And thank God they obviously
the government stepped
in, because otherwise, and then Emma moved all the money out of it. But like it's those are moments where you're like, fuck, that's self-reflection. Like maybe we shouldn't have everything tied up in one location. Or I'm not saying we need to be doing things like
you need to do you just need to do your due diligence. Like everything in life, you can't just make rational haste decisions off a whim. You need to sit down, you need to draw up the pros and cons to every decision, and then generally with self-reflection and self-assessment, after you've had a bit of a hiccup, you can always put yourself on the right track, or at least point yourself in the right direction. So
I'd say with self-reflection, the worst things to swallow are death, like when you're potentially in a very deep relationship or married, somebody dies in it, like, and you just are left to the point where you don't know what you are without it. I think that's one of the most horrific forms of self-reflection. Like, who am I without this person? Sure. What do I do now? I think another one would be when you make a huge financial investment or anything and you lose it all, like, or you've got to pay a tax bill that's fucking eye-watering and you have no idea where the fuck you're going to get the money from. That's self-reflection. Jesus should have done some fucking analysis on this. Do you know what I mean? And I would also say, like, self-reflecting on your environment is probably one of the hardest things, when you actually realize that maybe the people you're surrounded with don't have your best interests at heart. And how do you move forward with this self-reflection or have relationship with people if it's compounding?
I think people generally sometimes don't self-reflect because it's too hard. They secretly understand and know. Everyone know, like, if we know ourselves the best, and when you self-reflect, you're always gonna sometimes come up with some very painful truths that you don't necessarily want to contemplate or even attract those types of thoughts or connotations towards your life. Like,
I think if your mental health is very low,
well, if you're trying to losing weight, as an example, if you're losing weight and your partner or your friend circle that you spend time with are consciously or subconsciously sabotaging you, and you self-reflect and realize that is your biggest hurdle, then how do you overcome that? You're going to have to make some pretty harsh sacrifices and decisions.
But then again, in those self-sabotage, I think this is slightly contradictory, if I'm honest with you, because if you think somebody's self-sabotaging you, did they have a gun to your head? Or can you self-reflect enough to realise that you should stop deflecting the blame on others? Your environment might be an issue, do you know what I mean? Yeah. But it's not the issue as to what's stuffing, you know what I mean?
What about peer pressure, for example? Somebody who goes out on the weekend loads and doesn't necessarily want to feel like excluding themselves, and peer pressure is applied, whether it's from a friendship group. But like, how does once you've self-reflected and you realize that that is your hurdle, how do you address that?
Well, it would, number one, it's what's your expectation, your goal in life in general. Do you know what I mean? Is this going to complement you? Does this bring you more good times than bad? Do you know what I mean? Has it had that much of a, it really depends on how deep it really is. Like, I've seen, and for myself can talk from this, that I was morbidly obese and I was surrounded by people that were not morbidly obese, like in any way, shape or form. And so my self-reflection was, why am I not the same as everybody else? Do you know what I mean? Okay, well, I can't blame all of them for having their shit under control and I don't. Do you know what I mean? And this is the reality, is that, if you are very overweight in a group of friends that are sabotaging, sometimes, like exactly what I did, I had to swallow a really hard fucking pill and I literally took myself away from it. And I had to, because otherwise I probably was going to end up dead at like 25. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's the reality. And so am I grateful for it 10, 12 years down the line? Of course I am. Like, thank fucking God. Like, but in the time in that, it's like when you break up with somebody. Like, Mark and me broke up once at the beginning of our relationship. It was like, for me, it was like, in fact, actually, we'll talk about this because I feel like I need to get it off my chest. Our relationship's doing really well at the moment, isn't it, Mark?
Our relationship, I would say our relationship is
thriving. I'd say in the past few months it's been actually quite good.
I think environment plays a huge role, and having self-reflected, I think going to somewhere like Cape Town, for example, was a very good learning experience, and there's a lot of positives, but there were certain aspects of it that didn't really resonate well with us. And then having gone to and enduring what we went through with that horrible woman in London, being our ex-landlord, it was very difficult for us to kind of find an equilibrium. And I think now our general environment reflects our current tone of our relationship, which is very positive.
Well, anyway, when we had the last argument, Mark, we didn't have an argument. I was talking about to Mark, I think Mark's very dismissive sometimes and would so we brought it up. I said, if we were to ever like break up or have a divorce, like get divorced, I was like, we were talking about the animals. I was like, would you feel like, you would need one of the animals or whatever? And Mark just said, no, I cut everything out of my life. Once it's done, it's done. I thought, oh my God, do you know what I mean? Do you not have any emotion? Because like, you're the most emotional person I fucking know. Like, literally. And you just were like, no, once I'm done with something, I'm not. I'm just done with it. Like, I don't need it. I don't need anything to do with it. And I'm like, but wait, what about like if there was years of memories, or like you think you just easily be able to cut out?
I wouldn't say it's easy. It wouldn't.
No, it's just like a breakup. Like when we broke up at the beginning of our relationship, like my mum had to get in contact with you because you were so stubborn on talking to me that you literally were like, that's it, it's done. Yeah. And then it literally took me like...
very rude to your mother as well.
You were so rude to me. And you called me stuff that is not appropriate. In fact, I still hold on to it. I remember my sister being like, this man is not for you. No. Like literally, like you fucking went at me.
Yeah, because
Mark thought something happened between somebody else. In self-reflection, deflected all of your insecurities.
I'm very hot-headed, so I generally react before you think.
Yes. That's hasty.
But then I'm also very stubborn. So once I've kind of reacted and made that decision in the heat of the moment, I'm too stubborn to change my mind.
You know what also, Mark can never remember what he said, and I can always remember everything I say. I'm a woman, for fuck's sake. Like, I remember everything. I remember it exactly. And so Mark will go, no, I didn't say that. And I'm like, you're such a prick. Like, literally, I'm like, you did say that. You can't even remember what day was yesterday. But no, in self-reflection, when we broke up, and it's the same as everything, like, it's hard. You're like, fuck, oh my God, have I just like fucked something up? Do you know what I mean? That I really wanted. And it's the same, like sometimes you have to, whether it's good or bad and it works out or it doesn't work out, it is that moment where you feel really sick to your stomach for like 2 or 3 weeks or 2 and 3 days, depending on how long the time is. And then it passes. You build into a new routine. You put like I remember my dad being like, oh, please stop dating people like that. Or, you know what I mean? Like, this is not going to bring you any benefit. You know, like, please just have some patience and virtue. Like, you know, all of them, like, literally, like, and I'd be like, no, it's the love of my fucking life. Fuck you.
You've definitely scarred your father. When he, there's like a look he gets in his eyes and this like distant glaze that he has. Where he it's like PT. It's like I would imagine if you asked somebody who was like in World War One, Battle of the Somme, or like World War Two, like that distant like scarred PTSD look. That's what he has. So I don't know. I don't know what you did to him, but he's basically.
I did fuck all, do you know what I mean? I just grew up. That was the reality. I mean, yeah. I mean,
did your sister do anything? Like apart from that one time
that everybody always brings up because it's the only time
is that the only time she literally
I think she's been a bit of a twat sometimes, my sister. Like I'm sure she's
sure
very
she
like
is
she's so selfish. Sometimes even having a conversation with her I'm like, oh my god, like okay. But then also like I do think she's one of those things, she's so selfish but she has a level of caring under there. Like me and my sister don't really have like a very I don't really communicate to that many people by my guys, but we don't have a very conversational relationship. We never have. Like, it's like we almost like, I know that if I was in dire need of something, or there's been times with business where me and Emma have worked alongside each other with like clients or like putting people in contact with people, whatever. And I know that there's care there, but I've always, I don't know, like, I don't think I really tested the waters, I think.
So
but I also think it comes down to how wet and liberal
straight.
Your parents are. If your parents are not very liberal and they're quite uptight and they've been brought up a certain way, then you can only expect them to not be able to manage this and to like come and reattract. And like, I even said this to my mum the other day. I was like, you know, until like I became a woman in which I had a voice, do you know what I mean, where I could actually like converse with people properly. I wasn't like a child and had an opinion on things. And same with my sister. Did it bring out the personality in my mum? So my mum was so uptight for like the whole of she'll be like, she'll listen to this, she'll be like, what the fuck? But she's only come into herself when she's actually realised that she's got 2 daughters who are quite strong, like strong-willed, like have formed their own pathways in life and have got a voice for something or somewhere, where she's realised that actually, okay, this is fine. That's because her parents didn't entice her to talk.
Sure.
Because the same with you getting with me. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you were like the most silent. Mark had to like blink twice before looking in my eyes, like when we first
I disagree with that.
No, Mark, you always had your eyes closed when you were looking at me. Don't fucking give me that shit.
Because I was just trying not to get horny.
From my boobies.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, yeah? Like,
there you go. I was like trying to be professional, so I was just trying to like center myself.
No, you just, what, so you got your eyes closed, like you're blind?
Yeah, otherwise I would have just been
fucking erect. Raging. No, I mean, like, look, Mark couldn't really, and like, even my grandma said it to me the other day. She was like, since you and Mark have been together, it's like Mark becomes more and more of like, not person, like you are a person, but like more and more conversational and willing to speak and share, like.
Yeah, but I've always been like that, though. I've never, I'm a very since we've been married, individual.
You're not reserved.
No, but like
now.
I've obviously when
now.
No, I am around other people.
I'm really reserved now around people, but around each other we're not.
Yeah, but that's the sign of people that are...
No, but you're more free will to go and speak to
introverted.
people.
That's a sign of being introverted, is like the more you get comfortable with people, then the more you come out your shell. But when you don't really know people and you don't understand their, you know, where the boundaries, where the lines are, then generally you just sit and figure shit out first before you start to...
But I do think people's energy brings to each other, do you know what I mean? Like normally, for example, if I had a client who like was fairly reserved, which I've worked with so many of them, do you know what I mean, of different nationalities, where if they were reserved, like you obviously respect that, but then suddenly because your energy is the way it is as a person, like it brings out that energy in them as well, where you just start to just like talk, or like you're not as reserved, or you just feel more comfortable. Yeah. I would say that we're very good at making people feel comfortable in our environment. Like we don't have, I don't think it's always been like that. Like I think in London when we were like, we did have very strong egos, but I still say I was quite pleasant to be around. Like I wasn't like unpleasant, but like now I would say that like we're very, what's the word? Like we don't like, there's a lot of people you can come around in life who think that they're above you in certain ways, and I think like this comes about so much, especially in like gym environments and stuff, and I just never want to be like that. I don't know, like I just really don't, because it's like the most unfriendly, unwelcoming, most hostile.
Yeah,
like,
but people like that don't get very far in this industry in general.
No, it's not in the sense of the industry. It's just in the sense of the actual surrounding. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just
No,
in general,
and that's
like how
we
you
didn't
come
build
across
that. Like when we opened the gym in Cape Town, that wasn't the case. The vibe that we created in the gym was exceptional.
No, I'm not saying about our gym. I'm saying like how your personality comes across to people to allow them to feel comfortable. And I say that we always want to make people feel comfortable. Like with the least, even though I can talk the legs off a donkey, on a podcast, I also, the same with like, you know, we're very good at making people feel comfortable, like around you. You don't want to make people feel uncomfortable. I think we make them feel like
I think the reason why is because we care. People understand that we actually have their best interests at heart, and we actually, you know, we always bang on about this, but like very few people, like less people than you can count on both hands, actually really care about your well-being. And I think once you work with us or in that capacity or know us, like we are very caring individuals, and you know, and you always know where you stand with us as well, because like even like Georgia said, even if you need to be sometimes told the truth and it's a bit uncomfortable, then we're the type of people that will always just say what's on our mind. You know exactly where you stand with us.
You know where you stand with us, but we're always going to give you a solution. Like we're always like, we'll say to you like, you know what, that's the hard truth of it. Like this is the reality, but that's how you're going to get there, or this is how you're going to sort it out, or this is how you're going to fix it. We never kind of like say our judgment and then just like, not our judgment, it's our professional advice or opinion on something, and then not back it up with how it can be sorted or fixed or thought of differently.
But even with our actual friends, you know, like people always ask us for our opinion, and we will always give it, whether it's something they want to hear or they don't want to hear. Do you know what I mean? Which people value.
Yeah, I'll literally never forget one of my friends messaging me who runs a like really successful catering business in London. Well, actually, I think it's around the UK now. Like on like quite mass scale, so they do like a lot of corporate stuff. And she said to me, like, we're launching like a frozen range of foods, like can I send you some so that you can like try them, because we're wanting to go into the sporting performance market, and like we know that obviously like, you know, we want to get like people that work with these people on a day-to-day basis opinion, and also those that are qualified. And I literally sent back, I was like, yeah, sure, like, no worries. And the food arrived. I literally sent a message. I hadn't even eaten it yet. And I was like, okay, if you want to do sports performance, why are we listing the salt content and the fucking fat content on the front of the packet and missing out, like, the vital things like protein, you know, the amount of calories, you know what I mean? Like, that's number one rule of sports performance food. Yeah. And she was like, fuck. Like, you're so right. I was like, yeah, like, I mean, if you want to get investment behind something, just think about what you've got to do to perform with that, you know what I mean? There's no point listing. It's what fucks me off on all nutritional like packets, as you know, is the fact they list like sugar, salt, like the most like irrelevant parts of the food, and don't list the calories accurately on the front. Or they'll say like, oh, it's 100 calories if you eat a quarter of it. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, read it properly with the asterisks. And the same with like, if you're going to do a protein orientated food, the thing on the front of your packet can't not have the amount of protein written on it. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can't say high protein and then you have to look on the back for the protein. You should have like it reiterated on the front. And it's like sports performance. So there's certain things you look at in the sense, you know, carb intake, protein intake, and literally like your calories, you know, and digest. But yeah, so it's one of these things where if you're ignoring that as food marketing, but you're wanting to reach into a sports performance market, you need to know. And that was like a hard truth, because she was like, fuck, I've just printed like 7,000 labels all like that. And you're right. Do you know what I mean? How is that going to sell like as a sports performance food if it doesn't fucking reiterate anything to do with sports performance? Yeah. So it's these things that you learn. But I guess on self-reflection, we can end the podcast here. Yeah. But I think it was just good to talk today about just if you're in a moment where you feel like you're assigning blame to everything else in your environment, your life, anything like that, please just turn that onto yourself. Not the blame, but the understanding that you need to look at yourself. If you're reaching to other people being the problem or other things being the problem, most likely it's actually you and how you manage those situations. So if you're going to do anything this weekend coming, do a bit of self-reflection, do a bit of fucking analysis. Nothing's impossible to fix, do you know what I mean, or to get sorted or to find a solution with. But you've actually just got to swallow it. Swallow it hard, but not like Babe Station.
Don't spit, swallow.
Oh my God.
Oh no, is that a bit inappropriate? Sorry.
No, it's not. Oh yeah? Right. Yeah, let's say you're sexy as spy.
I'd want to be like Spanish. I'd be like...
Oh, Spanish?
Ciao.
That's Italian.
Ciao.
Oh, fuck.
Oh, wait, no, what's Spanish for goodbye?
Vamos. No, that's quick.
No,
Vamos.
Vamos means...
Oh my God. Gracias is thank you. Hola.
Hola.
Fuck.
Oh, no.
Bon voyage. No, that's French.
Bonjour? No, that's
French. Hello. Oh my God. What is it?
I don't know.
We're going to have to Google this because we can't end Spanish for goodbye.
Yeah,
I should know this.
Yeah, you should know.
Adios. Fuck's sake. Adios. I even took the slimming pills when I was fat. Like literally. Fucking adios.
I'd be...
What would you say? Adios. That's not sexy.
You have to do deep voice though.
Okay, what's your deep voice?
I'm doing it.
Sorry.
Just give me a second.
Like your deep throat.
Are you ready? Adios.
Oh my God, that sounds like you've got a deep fucking throat issue. Do you know what I mean?
Deep throat issue.
Oh my God, no, that's the worst thing that just came out of my mouth. I'd say,
like Antonio Banderas back in the day.
Bye, baby.
Why is it always so soft?
Because it's like pathetic when the men are on the fucking phone having a wank or somebody's going, oh yeah, oh my God, you got it, oh my God. Yeah, literally. That's good,
yeah,
isn't
that's
it?
not bad.
We'll end it like that. That's so inappropriate. Anyway, have a bit of activity this weekend. You might feel better for it. Anyway, adios.
Adios.